Hi, I'm Gandalf Clark.
I'm Ellen Clark. And we're the Clarks. Alright guys, so today we have a different type of discussion for you. We were actually watching Dawson's Creek, and we were thinking about how marriage and divorce has changed over the years, and we were thinking about how it affects the different generations. And on Dawson's Creek, the kids were talking about how they were changed because they were a product of divorce. Now, this is something that Gandalf and I definitely relate to. Mm-hmm. And it's something that we discussed before we got married. One of the things that we decided was that if we get married, we definitely don't want to get a divorce, no matter what. That was right. That was one of the things, because my mom got married several times. Your mom got married several times. Your dad got married several times. My dad got married several times. And we wanted to do whatever it took to not have
Interesting, actually. Your parents each only had 2 marriages, and my parents each had 3.
Yeah. Well, my stepdad was married 3 times, I think. But my stepmom only married 1 time. Your stepdad only married twice so far. I mean, he's still alive, so. But my stepmom says she's not going to marry anyone else. She's totally in love with my dad. I think
Scott's happy.
Yeah.
Where he is in this.
But it was interesting the way the kids on Dawson's Creek were talking about how, because they were a product of divorce, it affected their decisions as they were growing into an adult, and they felt as if they were blamed for the divorce. Now, did you ever feel that way? Did your parents make you feel like you were...
Not with the first one, but my mom definitely made me feel that way with Dana.
Yeah.
And when she divorced Dana, she said it was my fault that it didn't work out, and I was okay with that.
Yeah.
I mean, thing is that here's what I have to say about Dana. He wasn't a bad person. I know I frustrated the hell out of him because of just a lot of stuff that was going on. And I really feel bad about the way I treated him. Because we had a lot of stuff in common. You know,
you were both into Star Trek.
Both into Star Trek. I'm pretty sure he'd probably be doing all the superhero movies too and everything. Mm-hmm. I don't even know if he's still alive right now. I haven't really looked into it in a while. I am friends with my stepsister on Facebook. She's a DJ in Northern California. But I don't know what happened to Dana.
Mm-hmm. I also felt like, both my parents pitted me against them,
Oh, my mom and dad did that with me, with me and Fran, too.
Like, my mom would always be saying bad stuff about my dad.
Oh, constantly.
My dad didn't really say as much mean stuff about my mom, but my stepmom said stuff, which I knew it was true, the things that my stepmom told me.
Pretty sure my dad said some stuff.
Yeah. But the thing I didn't know was that my mom was cheating on my dad. So they were both cheaters. My mom was cheating on my dad.
My parents were swingers.
Yeah, mine were swingers too. That's what I finally understood.
And it doesn't always work out, folks. It just doesn't always work out. You have to. I know people.
You got to have a lot of rules.
I know people who do it successfully, and you got to have a lot of rules and stuff. And honestly, no disrespect to them. It's just not my kind of lifestyle. Yeah. I wouldn't want to live that way.
Well, there's a big difference between what our parents did, the swinging, and the polyamorous relationships that we see working successfully in our pagan friends groups.
Right.
In our pagans friends groups, they have rules, they have committed relationships. One of our friends who is in one of those relationships, their spouse passed away. And because they're in this polyamorous relationships, one of the other people in the relationship was able to be there for them. One of their significant others had passed away recently. And I thought it was really sweet the way that they were able to just be there for each other, because loss of a spouse is tremendous. And seeing, especially Gandalf's stepdad just mourn for Gandalf's mom, it was terrible. It was very...
When we first were trying to record the podcast, we were doing it over at my mom's old house, and we had to stop several times because Scott was scream-crying.
Yeah.
And he was upstairs. We were in the basement, but we could hear it, and it was just like, there wasn't really a way to do it right.
They had such a strong love, and they were such a strong power couple that we actually looked up to and learned so much about from with business. It was such a devastating loss, and Mom was such a pillar in the community, that it just basically was just devastating for everyone. But the point of the matter is basically that in these larger relationships with more than just a couple, they can provide that support, which I think is beautiful when it actually works for people.
Yeah.
Which wasn't the case for our parents.
No.
But one thing I did notice, people talk about how there's so much more divorce now, but before that, it's like our parents were actually in a generation where, number one, they got to use birth control. Birth contraceptives became legal, and so they were able to decide, how many children do I want to have? That was one thing our mothers got to decide.
Yeah, after me, my mom got her tubes tied.
Yeah.
And then when she met Scott, she decided to have them untied and reattached and everything, and it just didn't work out.
But they adopted. And now you have a wonderful
little brother. That's right.
Mm-hmm. Not so little anymore.
Well,
full-grown adult.
Full-grown adult, yes.
But we still treat him like a little brother because he's our little brother. What's kind of cool about that is he actually reminds me of my brother, and so I get to have another brother,
There are pieces of him that remind me of someone that was like a brother to me.
Yeah.
And I dream about
he's
that person
the best.
a lot. So
yeah we're so grateful that Mom and Scott adopted Steve. So yeah, adoption's great. When you add that other person to your family. But yeah, like our parents were able to say no, and not just in that aspect, they were able to say, let's get a divorce. Mm-hmm. Because, before that, they were not able to do that, and they were able to get out of these committed relationships, whereas before, women unfortunately would have to turn to things like murder. They would have to murder their husbands to get away. They would have to leave in the middle of the night. Go to other states, go to other countries.
Yeah, because if they stayed where they were, then they would be legally obliged to continue to be married to that person.
Yeah, and it's really, really difficult. So, that's just something that we noticed, and we thought we would share with all of you, is that there was just such a huge change during that time of the 70s and 80s. That our parents, specifically our mothers, and as we mentioned in other podcasts, or not podcasts, but shows, we are sad for our moms because they were raped by our fathers, and they were not able to say no, but then when they got the power, they took the choice into their own hands. They got a divorce, and we do feel okay talking about this now because all our parents have passed on, so we just want to stop the violence and the hate and just share, how generations have changed. That's the goal of this video, is to just show
I really wish
changed.
I knew all the stuff that got in the way of my parents' marriage. I know I don't know all of it, but I have a feeling that religion might have also played a part.
Yeah. Well, your mom wanted to work. That was one thing, too. Your mom wanted to work, and Dad didn't want that. My mom didn't want to swing. I know that was one of her problems. But I know that when I talked to my aunt, my mom and my dad just didn't really like each other. And that was fun to find out. Are you okay, honey? Mm-hmm. But yeah, basically that's what happened. Another fun thing that we wanted to talk to you guys about is that, because our parents had passed on, we do sometimes see them when we watch TV. There's like pieces of our parents in
like
TV.
personality traits,
or
possibly physical resemblances, things like that.
And we miss them a lot. And when we do miss them, there's certain shows and certain things that we'd like to watch that remind us of them. Because yes, everyone is varied. You can't just say, this is a bad person, this is a good person. Our parents did what they had to do in order to survive.
Yep.
We're not great people. We have done what we had to do to survive. When we were younger, we used to steal toilet paper from the park. We had to do these things in order to get through,
Yep.
So, we could have gone to jail for that. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, luckily now we have so much stuff to sell that when we need supplies, we can just sell stuff, pay down a credit card, or use the money just to get the
and there are
stuff we
people
need.
that have to steal things right now just to survive. There are people living in tents, living in their cars. People say, "Oh, I'm living van life," but it's like you're living van life because you can't afford to live in an apartment. You can't afford,
which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
the price of housing these days is absolutely, without a doubt, ridiculous. And honestly, I think that this administration should do something about this.
Yeah, I agree. Because the thing is honestly, that houses are getting bought by corporations.
That's what's happening, and they're jacking up prices, and they're making it impossible. And there's people in Baltimore living on the fucking streets in tents.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's going to be really cold this winter.
It's not right.
Really cold.
There are plenty of houses. There's housing for just about every person in this country.
More than enough houses.
Charge people for their housing.
Yeah. So back to the fun, what we do when we want to remember our parents. So we'll talk about our dads first. I was recently reminded of my dad when we were watching the new Quantum Leap. The character Addison, who is the guide, she's the new Al. She actually sees her dad on a Navy ship. And my dad was in the Navy. And I just love this episode. It's season 1, episode 14 of the new series. And there's this beautiful moment that she shares with her dad. And she said, the dad is talking about how he wants to leave the family because he doesn't want basically his bad emotions and his bad habits to transfer onto his daughter. But he learns through this mission that, he's actually helped her to become the woman that she is. And I just thought that was really beautiful.
Well, he doesn't learn that.
Well, through the whole experience, he decides to change. And that just really reminded me of my dad a lot. And just being in the Navy. And, our parents they do what they have to survive. So I thought that was a really cool episode. So again, I'll share your experience.
Also,
of your dad.
doesn't your dad remind you of Michael in the Office? Doesn't Michael remind you of
Yes,
your dad?
my dad also reminds me of Michael in the Office. He would always say really inappropriate things. My cousin can back me up on this. And this is actually a family thing, so even when my brothers and I would get together, we would make up really gross things. We would talk about the Eichholt farts, and we even put stuff in the Urban Dictionary. It's just our family's gross. But I love my brothers, and I wish, my younger brother RJ was still alive. But yeah, Michael from The Office reminds me so much of my dad. He would always say really inappropriate things, but he was hilarious, and I love seeing that, because he had a good heart. He did want to help a lot of people, my dad. Well,
for my dad, as odd as this may sound, Kim's Convenience, the father-in-law, the main character, Appa, Mr. Kim.
Mm-hmm.
He really, just his look reminds me of the way my dad used to dress, and he's got a bit of a beard and all that stuff, and it really reminds me of my dad. And then also seeing that
especially
same actor in
the way he looks over his glasses.
Yeah, the way he looks over his glasses, definitely.
That is so your dad.
Yeah. And then the other interesting thing about that is that now that actor is gone on to play a character in Star Wars, which is really cool.
Your dad loved Star Wars.
Yeah, he did.
He loved Obi-Wan Kenobi. That was his favorite.
He did.
Yeah. So we definitely love that actor. So then we move on to my mom, who in her more happier moments reminds me of Kitty from that 70s show. Just like really hyper and positive and just like, okay, let's just have a drink to make things better. Now let's just say this, okay, my mom was an alcoholic, so it does kind of make sense, the whole kitty drinking thing. But and she wasn't really like into baking and stuff, but she was always like, let's have a nice meal, you know, let's play a game and try to forget our worries. She was very good about taking like the worst of a situation and like, let's have fun. And I think that I learned a lot from that because, you know, especially when we first met, we had nothing. We had absolutely nothing. And we took what we had. We'd go to the dollar store. We would go to Sheetz. We would have our own little parties. We'd have our own fun. And I definitely think I learned that from my mom. Taking nothing and having absolutely amazing time.
Yeah, my mom was like that too.
Your mom was like that too. But your mom, we can see her fully in you.
Yeah, in the character that Kathy Bates plays in Disjointed. My mom wasn't an activist so much, but she just, mannerisms and things like that is just very similar, and how into weed she is and everything. It's just it really just reminds me of my mom.
And you know, the funny thing is that Harleen was looking forward to that show coming on.
But she passed before
she did, yeah. So we know that she knew that show was going to be for us, which is interesting. And you know what? I'm just realizing I had written a poem about this, and I'm wondering if I can find it real quick for us and read it to you. It's a poem that I actually wrote for pretty much like any parents. It's called Who Are Our Parents? And it's about, you know, just that anyone can be a parent, and it's kind of like an ode to even like our step parents and like those people who take care of you. Like my mom Carol person, who was the person who was a lady across the street who took care of pretty much our whole neighborhood. So this is from Shard in the Heart, my poetry book. Who are our parents? They're not always biological, but they love us just the same. They are honored and obeyed. We don't always do as they say. They are our best teachers because they are patient yet firm. They show us how we can make our life easier. But the problem is getting us to listen. Their wisdom guides us daily as their lessons echo in our minds. They take care of us when we need them most. Whether we be ill or distraught or misguided, they surprise us and encourage us with tales of experience and faith. Most of all, they honor us by being the best gifts gods could ever give. We are grateful to have you as our parents. So I kind of wrote that for Mom and Scott, but it really applies to like all the people who have taken care of us over the years.
Yeah, but Mom and Scott were the most supportive of our parents. Mom and Scott were the most supportive of our relationship and our professional lives, everything.
Yeah. And they took care of me when I had my car accident and nursed me back to health. And they even gave us a part of their franchise to help us later on, you know, and teach us about business. And we wouldn't be where we are today without them. We wouldn't be where we are today without any of our parents.
Although I do wonder what things would be like if we still had a franchise and we were up in Frederick.
I know.
There's a lot more art up here than there is in Carroll County.
Yeah. We made some mistakes. That's the thing about business. You don't learn unless you make mistakes. And we really appreciate you all being on this journey with us. I know that our goal was to put a video out every day, but unfortunately, when you're a spoonie like me, you encounter these things. I just got over passing a kidney stone. I found out that I probably have IBS-C. It's not Crohn's, so I have no idea how to deal with this stomach thing. But I'm learning. And every day I'm learning, you know, what to do. And, you know, with the change in our monetary situation, we were eating cheaper food, and I think that really messed up my system. So, you know, we have a friend who moved in that's really helping us with our groceries and everything. And we are eating better the past couple of days. We had some delicious steak Gandalf got for us, and we had some sweet potato fries and some pork chops and zucchini, and I think my stomach is really it's not bloated and it's not hardened and everything now, and I'm eating stuff from like Wegmans, and it's really, my stomach's like, I recognize this is what I normally eat, and that's really much better for my stomach, eating the fresh vegetables, the fresh organic meats, and the right type of bread that's not like bleached and everything, because that really just, I think it tears me up and blocks me up, and I cannot eat that Hershey's chocolate. I think that was really a bad thing for me. No Hershey's chocolate for me. So you guys take care. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching, and let me know, are there any celebrities that remind you of your parents? Do you watch that now that your parents have passed, or have you recognized this at all, or do we just sound completely insane to you and you guys are like, you're just drawing weird correlations, So have a great day and have an awesome afternoon, evening.